number of coronavirus cases in Los Angeles County comes to 313,562, with the confirmed number of deaths reaching 7,117. Here in Torrance, the total number of confirmed cases is 1,617, with total confirmed deaths at 72. Welcome to COVID-19 Today. I'm Christine Lee. It's 4 p.m. on Wednesday, November 4th. The votes are still being counted for the presidential election across the country. As of early this afternoon, more than 138.5 million ballots have been processed, but it's still too close to tell who the winner is. According to news outlet projections this morning, at least 159.8 million Americans voted in the 2020 presidential election. The projected vote marks the highest number of ballots cast in a presidential election and the highest voter turnout rate among eligible citizens since the year 1900. Here in California, more than 11.6 million votes have been counted so far, and we're starting to see some projected results. Former Vice President Joe Biden has the clear win over President Donald Trump here in California. He snagged more than 7.7 million votes compared to Trump's 3.9 million. California voters also weighed in on the 12 local propositions. Here are the unofficial results as the state plans to certify its final results by December 11th. Prop 14 appears to have passed, authorizing $5.5 billion in state bonds for continued stem cell and other medical research. Voters rejected Prop 15 by a slim margin so far, which would have raised taxes on commercial properties that are worth more than $3 million to help fund community colleges, local government services, and public schools. Voters are also saying no to Prop 16, which would have brought back affirmative action, allowing diversity to play a role in college admissions, contracts, and public employment. Prop 17 got the green light, restoring the right to vote for those who completed a prison term and are on parole. Prop 18 did not pass. It would have allowed 17-year-olds to vote in the primary and special elections if they will turn 18 by the next general election. Voters are approving Prop 19, which allows senior homeowners to pay low property taxes if they have to move, such as in the case of a disaster or a wildfire. It also raises taxes for people who use inherited property as a rental or a second home. Voters rejected Prop 20 by a large margin. This measure would have rolled back reforms in criminal sentencing, DNA collection, and parole, authorizing felony sentences for certain offenses currently treated only as misdemeanors. Voters also rejected Prop 21, which would have allowed cities to implement stricter rent control. Prop 22 passed by almost 2 million votes, allowing companies like Lyft and Uber to treat their drivers as independent contractors and not employees. This was the most expensive measure in California history, with more than $204 million contributed to this single issue. Voters are rejecting Prop 23, which would have established new care standards at kidney dialysis clinics, requiring a physician, a nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant to be on site during dialysis treatments. Prop 24 passed, expanding data privacy laws and allowing consumers to prevent businesses from sharing personal information. And voters rejected Prop 25. It would have eliminated cash bail, approving a law that replaces money bail with a system based on public safety and flight risk. 2 new faces will join the Torrance Unified School Board. Of the 4 candidates listed on the ballot, ANDAHL Mohammed and Jasmine Park received the most number of votes. Dr. ANDAHL Mohammed came first at 28.21%. He has more than 10 years of combined experience in public education, technology, and leadership. Mohammed serves as the chair of the Personnel Commission within the Torrance Unified School District. He received his degree in computer science from UC Davis, a master's in business administration from UC Irvine, and a doctorate of education from USC. Jasmine Park, another accomplished local resident, is a Torrance native. She graduated from North High, got a BA in History and East Asian Studies from Harvard University in 2014, then spent 2 years with the Peace Corps in Cambodia. Park continued her education at Yale University, where she earned her master's degree in global affairs in 2019. Park received 28.02% of the votes. The Torrance Area Chamber of Commerce hosted a candidates forum on October 8th, inviting all 4 contenders to answer questions and meet members of the Torrance community through a virtual forum. Torrance is the 10th largest public school district in Los Angeles County, with more than 23,000 students enrolled as of 2019, serving one of the most diverse communities in the South Bay. Multiple state and local incumbents may hold on to their positions for another term, but the race for the LA County District Attorney ended with newcomer George Gascon presumably beating incumbent Jackie Lacey. He had more than 200,000 votes against the current DA at last check this afternoon. Meanwhile, Senator Stephen Bradford reclaimed his spot to keep representing the 35th District, which includes parts of Torrance. Assemblymember Al Muratsuchi will also keep overseeing the 66th District, which includes parts of our city. And Congressman Ted Lieu, who represents the state's 33rd district, including parts of Torrance, defended his spot successfully as well. He's currently serving his 3rd term in Congress. A Republican in North Dakota won a seat in the state legislature almost a month after dying from COVID-19 complications. David ANDAHL passed away on October 5th after winning the primary race against an incumbent committee chairman. He received nearly 36% of the votes and joined another Republican to take the 2 seats for state representatives from North Dakota's 8th district. It is unclear at this time what will happen to ANDAHL's space. According to the COVID tracking project, North Dakota was leading the country in the number of new cases per 100,000 people. ANDAHL was 55 years old. And in Delaware, Sarah McBride became the nation's first openly transgender state senator after winning her race. The Democratic lawmaker tweeted last night, "We did it. We won the general election," and thanked her supporters. She also wrote, quote, "I hope tonight shows an LGBTQ kid that our democracy is big enough for them too." McBride is the highest ranking of the now 5 transgender state legislators. The LGBTQ Victory Fund issued a statement where its president and CEO, Anise Parker, wrote in part, "Sarah's overwhelming victory is a powerful testament to the growing influence of transgender leaders in our politics and gives hope to countless trans people looking toward a brighter future." In the presidential race, Joe Biden is the projected winner in the state of Delaware, which also happens to be his home state. Voters in Oregon made history as well last night by becoming the first state to decriminalize hard drugs. Measure 110 decriminalizes the possession of small amounts of cocaine, heroin, LSD, and some other drugs. Its approval also legalizes the therapeutic use of psilocybin mushrooms. This initiative reclassifies personal drug possession to a Class E violation with a $100 maximum fine. Those who are caught could have the fine waived by completing a health assessment, which could lead to treatment, recovering, and housing services. It does not affect people selling or manufacturing illegal drugs. This is one of the 4 statewide ballot measures that voters passed in Oregon, increasing cigarette and vaping taxes, limiting campaign contributions, and legalizing medicinal psilocybin or mushrooms were other measures that passed. New studies are looking into a link between COVID-19 and vitamin D. This vitamin has long played a role in how a person responds to illnesses. Dr. Todd Rice at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center says patients who have lower vitamin D levels are more likely to get an infection needing hospitalization or the ICU. They're also more likely to die from their infection. He adds that more than 40 studies are underway and doctors are seeing the same trend among patients who have COVID-19. Rice says a person's skin tone plays a direct role in absorption. He explains that the main way that we get vitamin D into our bodies is through sunlight. So, quote, "People with darker skin tones absorb less UV radiation and less vitamin D." People of color have disproportionately been affected by COVID-19 throughout this pandemic. Now, researchers are trying to see if giving people supplementation for vitamin D will improve their outcomes. If sufficient vitamin D levels can help ward off COVID-19, Dr. Rice says it could be something that's easily put into practice widely. The coronavirus is reshaping the way death certificates are written. Multiple studies have shown that as many as half of these documents are incorrect. Since dealing with COVID-19, federal officials at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a guidance aiming at improving the accuracy of what doctors identify as the cause of death. On death certificates, doctors have often blamed heart disease and other chronic conditions when the actual cause of death was lethal bacteria, viruses, or other infections. The CDC's guidance reminds doctors to ask why a patient died when they did. If the doctor believes COVID-19 was the main reason, the disease should be written on the death certificate as the underlying cause of death. A CDC spokesperson says if you know why people die, very often you can develop programs to prevent people from dying from those causes. The guidelines were issued in April, and officials say they helped trace the coronavirus and help them understand how to stop its spread. Distance learning is failing low-income students in Los Angeles. More students are getting D's and F's on their grades in middle schools and high schools within the LA Unified School District. Poor grades skyrocketed in LAUSD's disadvantaged neighborhoods, according to the latest 10-week interim assessment released earlier this week. Figures also showed that these are also areas where student attendance rates are lower and where the coronavirus hit especially hard. Superintendent Austin Buettner acknowledges that the struggle to cope with COVID-19 and online learning for children and their families is very real, but he adds that the attendance figures and the interim assessments don't reflect the desire or capability of the students. Buettner says campuses will not reopen for most students before January, and even that timing is doubtful unless the pandemic subsides and the state and local agencies offer more guidance and resources. If you miss going to the movies, there's a drive-in option in town that will continue to show films throughout this year. The Rhodium Open Air Market on Redondo Beach Boulevard between Crenshaw and Van Ness transforms into a drive-in movie theater on weekend evenings featuring family-friendly films. The Torrance-based venue released its lineup for the rest of 2020 and actually sold out of some of its upcoming showings. Coming up on November 21st is Toy Story, and in January you can expect to watch Happy Feet, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Uncle Buck. COVID-19 protocols are in place at the Rhodium. Masks are mandatory. Sitting outside of your vehicle is not allowed at this time. Social distancing is enforced, and children under 12 must be accompanied by an adult at the snack bar and at the restroom. A ticket for one vehicle is $30, but military and healthcare workers get a 20% discount unless the event is sold out. If you qualify, just bring a valid military or healthcare ID to the gate instead of buying your ticket online. November is National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. President Ronald Reagan designated this themed month back in 1983. At that time, less than 2 million Americans had Alzheimer's. Today, more than 5 million people of all ages in our country have this disease. I had the privilege of meeting a Torrance family and helped share their story of what it was like to care for their loved one. Michelle Hamada says her husband Dave was diagnosed with younger onset Alzheimer's when he was just 41 years old. His family had a history of this debilitating disease, and Michelle and their son Corey did their best to care for him. He passed away when he was just 51 years old. Their story is one of heartbreak, but also one of hope. The Hamada family continues to raise awareness about younger onset Alzheimer's long after Dave passed away. You can catch their full story on future episodes of Weekends in Torrance. Well, before we go, at the end of each program, we like to share stories from our community, feel-good pictures, images, and videos that remind us of how resilient our community is and how Torrance truly cares. A local business is helping to save homeless, abandoned, and sick dogs to find loving homes. Tortilla Cantina in downtown Torrance will donate 10% of its proceeds from all online orders to Noah's Bark Dog Rescue. It's a nonprofit based in the South Bay that one of the cantina's managers has overseen for almost 20 years. Noah's Bark gives a second chance to dogs that are unlikely to be adopted at high-kill animal shelters and provides them with medical care and foster housing. The organization is completely funded by community support, and volunteers take the dogs in until permanent homes can be found. Tortilla Cantina workers hope their contribution this month helps to raise more awareness and support for this special organization. What a wonderful way to help our furry neighbors during such uncertain times. Now, if you have a great story to share, email us at covid19today@torranceca.gov. We'd love to hear from you. Well, that's our update for COVID-19 today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow as Ben McCain brings you the latest updates. Be safe, stay healthy, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.